Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for a Talk Magic. And today I'm going to be speaking to somebody who, if you have been watching this channel for any length of time, you'll know that this is a name you've heard over and over again, because in the last couple of years, this gentleman I'm interviewing today has released some incredible magic tricks. I visited his booth at the Blackpool Magic Convention, and there were people everywhere. He was rammed the entire time. The last couple of tricks that he's brought out, both myself and Ryland raved about. He's also a very busy performer. He's also a very successful performer. And I'm really glad that he's found the time to come and jump on the channel to chat a little bit more about him and what he gets up to. I am, of course, talking about the one and only Cyrus from Sirus Magic. How you doing, buddy? You okay?
Yes, I'm fine, Craig. Thanks so much for having me. This has been a long time coming, hasn't it? I think we've been talking about this interview for 2 years now. So I'm glad we finally managed to make our schedules match up.
Absolutely. And the last couple of years, I mean, you've been around Magic for a long time, and we're going to get into that a little bit later on. But the last couple of years, you've really kind of exploded. You're literally, or it seems like you're literally everywhere, which is what you want to be, you know, obviously. And I know that you brought out some stuff with Premium Magic, and then the more recent stuff that you've brought out has been through your own brand, Sirus Magic. I want to talk all of that. I also want to talk about your career as a performing musician, because unlike all creators, you also go out and perform regularly. And I've said on the review show, one of the things I really like is seeing so many live performances on your stuff as well. And that in itself just sets you apart from so many people. So I'm really excited to do this interview. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are watching this that have seen your stuff before. But for anybody who has no idea what's going on or anything like that, let's start off by giving people a frame of reference. And let's start by talking about your origin story.
Wow.
How did you get into magic? Where did that all come from? And what did it look like?
So my grandparents had a hotel in Bournemouth for my whole childhood when I was growing up. And so there was always essentially a free audience there for me to play up to. And I would always be doing little song and dance numbers to the guests in the hotel while we were there. We'd be there for the whole of the summer because it was our hotel, basically. It was our grandparents' hotel. And so some of my longest, fondest memories are of spending time with the guests at the hotels whilst down in Bournemouth. And on my, I think it was 5th or 6th birthday, I got bought the classic standard Paul Daniels Magic kit with the pink writing on the front and the plastic yellow cup. And, you know, those who knew that, we all had that same set. And I realized very quickly that I could fool adults with little bits of plastic. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is more fun than singing or dancing. And I kind of started just doing exactly that, fooling adults with little bits of plastic, which is essentially what they were in these original kits. They weren't high quality, but the magic was there. The magic was sound. So there was paddles, there was cups and balls, there was the ball and vase trick. And if you don't know how it's done, it's still magic.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my very first introduction, whilst of course that whole time I'd been watching Paul Daniels on TV every Saturday because he was the man of the 80s and 90s doing magic. Once it got to I would say I think I was about 7, I got taken to see a play, and in this play was a clown who did a bit of magic, a bit of juggling. I actually ended up on his shoulders on a 6-foot unicycle going around the stage.
Wow.
I mean, and I was like, oh, this is cool. The audience are enjoying it. I'm up on this guy's thing. Then he moved on to do a trick, which I believe now, I didn't realize at the time, was sponge balls. So what I saw was a magician pulling balls from people's heads out of people's ears. So genius 7-year-old Cyrus went home and started sticking marbles in his ears. Fast forward to A&E, genius Cyrus having to have his ears flushed out because he's got marbles in them. So that was my first realization that perhaps not all magic is as it seems. Mm-hmm. In order to take a ball out of an ear, you don't always have to put a marble inside your head. And I learned that at a very young age. So I kind of got that disconnect between what is real in magic and what isn't. And then I started doing friends parties and little bits like that, just entertaining because they knew I was playing with these things. And once it got to that late period on Channel 4, there was a TV show called Secret Cabaret, which was a very famous magician of the time named Simon Drake. I'll come back to Mr. Drake later because we have a tale to tell there as well. But these were my two magic influences on TV. We rarely got Copperfield specials. When we did, it was once a year, if that. But it was Paul Daniels every Saturday night. And then once I started getting into my formative teen years, it was Secret Cabaret every Friday night. I'd get back from round at friends or down the park or possibly even later in the pub. And I'd sit down and watch Simon Drake doing his spook, weird, strange, stabbing himself, you know, setting fire to assistants, the kind of magic I'd never seen on Paul Daniels, because Paul's is very, you know, straight, classy, classic magic. And then this guy comes along and he's got these two personas, and one of them's the, you know, bespectacled, top-hatted magician, but the other one is this dark, dark character who's burning people alive just to light a cigar off them. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing that it doesn't have to always be suit and tie magicians or, you know, those kind of things. And it made me realize that
can I just ask, I just want to ask, how old are you at this point?
When 15, 16, I guess.
Okay, I just wanted to check. Right. Okay. Yeah.
So, you know, formative years where, you know, you're sneaking into the pub, but you're not really meant to be in there yet. And, you know, you're hanging out down the park with your mates till silly o'clock. And I'd get in at 11 o'clock every night. Secret Cabaret on, I think it was Channel 4 every Friday night, right before that awful cooking program. I don't know if you remember, what was it called? Get Stuffed. Where they literally just find stuff in the fridge and go, right, this is a meal, because it was all you had left. But yeah, so Secret Cabaret stuck with me. And we'll come back to Mr. Drake later, as I said. I'm just trying to sort of keep it chronological. Around 20, something like that, 20 or 22, I met a couple of very, very friendly, very lovely magicians in Covent Garden Market, who everyone has heard of. This would be Lee Hathaway and Neil Henry. And I started chatting to them.
That would be the Magic Cave, right?
The Magic Cave, of course. Everyone who knows the Magic Cave. And it's still there today. It's being run by someone else equally as lovely, but it's still there. It's still in exactly the same spot that it was 25 years ago at the end of the piazza at Covent Garden. And I started chatting with these guys who were just people I didn't know at that time, and explained to them that I'd created this cool thing. And they were like, oh, we'd love to see that. And it turns out that was actually Bluetooth. Now, Bluetooth is one of my 7 current releases, but it's about the only one I think you haven't reviewed yet.
No, and I am planning on reviewing it. Yes, but yes,
I thought you might be. That was one of the first ones we interacted with as well. And again, this was about 2 years ago. And for whatever reason, you're very busy. I'm very busy. It went in a drawer, and I guess it got forgotten about for a little while. And then
it's just there's so much magic that comes out. It's just crazy. But yes, it's on the list.
So the first iteration of Bluetooth, I already had this product I didn't really know what to do with. I wasn't performing that much, but I was doing friends events and stuff like that, not anywhere near as a professional. And I certainly didn't have an outlet. So I asked Lee and Neil if they liked my trick, would they mind selling it on their stall for me? And they saw obviously how good this trick is. And to this day, it's still one of the best card animation effects, not my words, other people's. As a result, they sold quite a few units, and I realized that, hey, maybe there's a market in another market for another magic stall.
And so how old were you when you created Bluetooth and it went out through the Magic Cave?
23, 24, something like that. So, you know, 10 plus years ago. And if you look at my old YouTube videos, there's a video from 11 years ago of me performing Bluetooth, and, you know, it goes back quite a few years. And so they took it on, but at the same time, I noticed that, oh, perhaps there is a need or a use for another magic stall somewhere. And so I went to Camden Market, where there wasn't one. Obviously, I didn't want to step on Lee and Neil's toes. So I approached Camden Market, which I knew very well anyway. I'd worked there in the puzzle shop for a number of years, many moons before I'd gone into the puzzle shop, which was a very famous puzzle shop in Camden Market. And picked up a Rubik's Magic, not magic trick, but the flat Rubik's thing with the rings on it.
Yeah, Ryland's got one. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. And I picked it up, and it was totally messed up. And I went and put it down, fixed. And the guy in the shop said, "Oh, sorry, did you just fix that puzzle?" I said, yeah. He said, I've got about 100 of them. Can I put you on a table and pay for you to just unmuddle those puzzles? I said, yeah, of course I can. And that was the first time I'd ever worked in a market. So I did that for about 2 summers, working for him, fixing puzzles and just demonstrating puzzles. So I knew there was a space there I could use in Camden, sorry. And so I approached management and I said, oh, I'm a magician. I've created all these ideas. I'd love to come to the market and start trading. And that's exactly what I did. So I had Bluetooth. I had my own Sven decks that I was making. As a rule, I didn't want to buy in anything from China because the build quality isn't always great, and certainly wasn't then. Now, it's a very different matter. You know, you've got companies like TCC turning out incredible artisan pieces, but back then it really was of a lower quality, and it was all you could get as wholesale. So I was like, I know, I'll just make my own. So I was making color changing Sven decks and Bluetooths and the ring swing because I'd seen that in the puzzle shop. And so I saw the potential of these things, started the stall, and I ran the stall in Camden Market for probably close to 8 to 10 years.
Wow.
And about
okay, so can I ask a question before we go on for that? So were you performing as well? Because you said that when you released Bluetooth with the Magic Cave, you weren't really performing professionally.
Yeah, so my performance time was every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, 8 hours a day on the stall. That was me performing, and that was enough, believe me.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to Marvin Burglass about this. You know, there's no better way to become an incredible close-up magician than working, demonstrating magic.
Now, it's funny you should say that, because although I was with the market on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday, guess where I was Monday to Thursday?
You weren't. Oh, wow.
Of course I was. Yep. I trained under the amazing Bruce that anyone's worth their salt trained under Bruce. And I did about 4 years for Marvin's Magic, Hamleys on the 4th floor, selling D-lights, lights from anywhere, the 50 greatest magic box down on the ground floor, and put in my long service. Yeah, I think I did nearly 4 years there. I was there with Quentin Reynolds and Tom, who is now the face of Marvin's Magic and goes all around the world promoting Marvin's and is their video face guy. He was a young up and comer when I was there, so you know it's.
So you're telling me that, just to get this right, you were performing long shifts for Marvin Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
12-hour long shifts.
12 hour long
Marvin's shifts were long. They were midday. Sorry,
Yeah.
not 12 hour, 8 hours. Sorry, midday till 8 p.m. when the store closed.
And then on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're running your own stall.
Yeah. And I was doing 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. in the market.
When did you have time to like do anything else? I mean, that's just mad.
I mean, I am very nocturnal, so I would still be going out nights and behaving myself to a point. But you know, when you're that age, you only behave yourself to a point. And then I would exist on 2 hours sleep, and I'd go into work and I'd do a full day demming, and then I'd get home and I'd do it again, and then we go out and it became the cyclic thing where you got into a routine. I've worked in kitchens before as well, and they're very ungodly hours, so it wasn't really any different to change kitchen work to entertainment work in terms of the fact that we work when everyone else is relaxing. Same in kitchens, you know, you're working and everyone else is sitting around eating nice food and evening time and weekends. And it's the same for entertainers. You know, we do the work when no one else is, when everyone's sitting at home relaxing. We're out doing shows and stuff now. So it came about that I was, you know, just working magic and earning a living and basically trying to pay the rent in London.
And over this 10-year period of you working, doing this insane schedule, did you create any other magic, or was it just Bluetooth?
No, absolutely. Bluetooth, Ambivalence, which is one of the other 3 that I brought out this year at Blackpool, which I don't believe you have yet, or you might have, but you certainly haven't. So there's Ambivalence, which is based on an effect regarding my tattoos. I have my name tattooed on my wrist here, Cyrus, but it also reads as magic. It's an ambigram. Mm-hmm. And so people kept saying to me, oh, can't you do a trick with that? So I created a trick with that and a bunch of others. So yeah, I've been creating since since day one, basically. One of the best things I've created was a certain young man who is now the, I believe, the #1 content creator across all platforms. So about 3 years into my market tenure in Camden, this parents came along with a child and they were like, "Our boy's into magic. Can he spend a bit of time on your stall?" And they basically just left him with me for the next 5 years. And that young man was, of course, Julius Dean.
Well, you know,
So
nobody. Julius Dean. Who's Julius Dean?
A couple of people have heard of him. Yeah, he's got a little bit of an online presence. So yeah, so for those 5 years, Julius watched me sell, watched me dem, watched me hustle. And that kind of, you know, he said it himself, without putting too fine a point on it, it made him the personal seller and hustler that he is today, and got him where he is. And he's very grateful for it. He's very, you know, we still talk regularly. I'm so proud of what he's achieved, where he's got, how he's done what he's done in such a short amount of time. And he's a bloody hard grafter. He certainly wasn't on the stall. He enjoyed sitting, watching me and eating. but unbeknownst to me, he was taking it all in. And then when he got to, I think it was about 17, so he was with me from about 12 to 16. Once he got to 17, he went off to college, realized girls were a bit more interesting for about 6 months, and then he realized that magic paid the bills and not girls, and he got straight back into magic, started producing his viral videos, and the rest, as they say, is history. I helped him on a few because I'm a builder as well and a creator. I've made stuff for various magic. I've made stuff for Paul Zenon. I've made stuff for Lee Hathaway. I made a Christmas tree covered in glue gun Doritos, don't ask, for a Christmas campaign for Doritos for Julius. I've done a full ad campaign for Milka. They flew me out to the Netherlands, and I was the magic consultant for a full Christmas ad campaign for Milka chocolate. I've been lucky enough to do magic for Angelina Jolie and her kids, and Gwen Stefani and family. So just been very lucky in where and how I've managed to get into magic and the people I've met.
Well, let me try and make sense of some of the timeline, because this is incredible. This is an incredible story. So you spent 10 years doing this kind of insane schedule, bouncing between Marvin's and your own stall. I'm guessing at some point you stopped doing that, because in order to go to the Netherlands and perform professionally like you do, there's no time to squeeze anything else in. So at some point you stopped doing that, right?
So yeah, I stopped working Marvin's and I focused just on my stall.
And how long ago was that, if you don't mind me asking?
I think the last year I did for Marvin's was approximately 10 years ago.
Okay, so 10 years ago, and you said you focused on your own stall. So were you focusing on your own stall, but also yourself as a performer? Because you said,
this was when I had more time, so I started putting myself out there, advertising in local newspapers and stuff. And again, the web wasn't as prolific as it is now, and so it was word of mouth and bookings from other bookings. And if you take out a newspaper ad or something, you know, it's unheard of these days. And I was just getting work through that. But I knew even if I didn't have a gig every week, I had my stall on a Saturday and Sunday. And occasionally Fridays. It depended on the market and what days they were doing certain market ventures. But I knew that no matter what, I could, even if I, had a non-booking week, I still had my guaranteed income from what I was doing on the Saturdays and Sundays in the market. And I wasn't selling to magicians. I'd probably see one magician over a whole weekend, and they'd love all my pro range stuff. But it was just selling to muggles, basically. It was selling to tourists who, and if you can sell magic to non-magic folk, then I think you can sell magic to anyone. Yeah, that's the way I see it. If you can go out and just pitch up somewhere and sell spends to random groups that have no interest in magic in the first place, you can do that. You can certainly market yourself to other magicians because they're a captive audience. They want what you've got, and if they've seen you've gone out there and worked it and it's a good piece, then it's much easier to get them on side with what you're doing, whereas the average muggle family of just a couple of kids and a couple of adults that never done magic, if you can convince them to buy something just by letting them have a go and showing them how easy the magic is for them, then I think you can sell magic or pretty much anything to anyone, including yourself.
Okay, I totally agree with you. Completely agree, 100%. So, do you still have the stand now?
No, so I worked for that whole period, and I was doing the magic stand whilst helping out a few other market friends. Someone needed cover on a stall on a weekday here, and because I didn't have that much on during the week, I was picking up days here and there. And I started working on a friend's jewellery stall, and I did about, on average, I don't know, 3 days during the week in the middle of the week, so they could be at home making all their handmade jewellery, and I was there facilitating the sales because they knew from, you know, seeing me hustle with magic that they knew I was a good seller anyway. So I was doing the magic stall on the weekends, the jewellery a couple of days a week, and then little gigs here and there. And I happened to bump into just a random person on the stall while I was selling jewellery, and she bought a couple of rings and was, you know, very approachable, very nice young lady, and she started talking about magic, and I'm like, this is a bit strange. She doesn't strike me as a magician at all. And turns out she was Simon Drake's partner.
Oh, wow.
Just apropos of nothing, out of nowhere, I'd said something, or she said something. She went, "Oh yeah, magic. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. My partner's a magician." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure. Who's your partner?" It's going to be some name I've never heard of. And she said literally the name of my idol. You know, the magician I aspired to be when I was growing up and wanted to really get into magic. And she said, "Oh, you must come down. You must meet us. You must come to the venue." I didn't even know he had a venue in London. So it was news to me. I said, yes, I'd love to. Went down with a friend on an invite, and I literally walked in the door, and I've no idea what she'd said to him, but I walked in the door and he said, "Oh, brilliant. You're the guy who's going to be coming and working for us, aren't you?" And I went, yes, apparently so. And I've been there for nearly 5 years now. And, you know, I've followed on from...
You still work there now? I didn't.
Absolutely, I do, yeah. So I've followed on from people like Mark Spellman, Brendan Rodriguez, many, many other names who've been with and worked with Drakey. And I'm very, very honoured to call Simon a friend. After, you know, they say never meet your idols. In this case, I was, you know, blown away with his kindness, his generosity. And like I say, I'm really, really honoured to call him a friend of mine now. I never thought, you know, if you'd have told kid me when I was watching that show that, oh, in 20 years time, you're going to be his mate and you're going to be working with him. And so I do the lighting and the pyro for his stage show. And along with Catherine Rhodes, who is also one of the other 3 resident magicians, as myself, Catherine Rhodes, who is of course the vice president of the Magic Circle, and David Croft, who is one of the most incredible balloon makers and twisters you'll ever see. He's actually responsible for those giant balloon sculptures at Blackpool every year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's David Croft. So we're the 3 close-up guys. So I do close-up for him on his show nights, and I also do the lighting and the pyro, and Catherine herself does the close-up, and she does the sound.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so I work at Simon Drake's House of Magic, which is, you're all welcome to come along to a secret location somewhere in London. Once you book tickets, we send you info on the location. If you're not coming, you don't need to know where we are.
That's great. And was it difficult to, because I'm guessing that's a full-time gig, working with Simon Drake. I'm guessing it's...
No, so Simon's public nights are once a month. And he also private hires the venue quite a lot. So we're only involved in the public nights, or if there's a particular show night on. And the rest of the time he hires out the venue and uses it for various pop videos and docos and things like that.
Wow.
And he himself obviously is a creator and an inventor, and he's there making automatons and you know, doing his usual creation.
Yeah. So you kind of doing it kind of as and when with Simon. But when you went to work with Simon Drake, you gave up the stand.
Well, I mean, it was essentially, it crossed over. At that same time, the management in Camden Market completely changed to, rather than human beings, a corporation. For 20 years, Camden had been run by human beings. And then a corporation came in, completely gentrified the whole place, glass fronted everything, took away all the character. And unfortunately, at the same time, they drove away a lot of the traders. They were asking for commitment to numbers of days that just weren't feasible. They'd want you there 7 days, even knowing full well that Monday to Thursday is completely dead in certain parts of the market, but they still wanted you to pay rent and commit to those dead days. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't justify paying for days that I knew there wouldn't be people there. So I phased out part of what I was doing, and I was just doing the odd day here and there. And then it became less and less. And then I was helping more on the stall on the weekends because she needed someone who was decent on the weekends to help with the jewelry. So I'd phased out mine so that I wasn't worrying about where's my next market rent going to come from, as well as my housing rent. And I was guaranteed I was getting earnings from the jewelry stall, plus whatever I was doing in the evenings and, little sales online here and there.
Brilliant. Okay. And so at this point, this is you say that you went to Simon Drake about 5 years ago.
Yeah, approximately 5 years.
And you've been working there for 5 years, which is amazing. And we're going to talk more about that in a bit. So in the last 5 years, obviously we're going to get to releasing product and taking that more seriously and premium magic and so on and so forth. But what does your kind of working week look like now? So are you still involved in markets, or are you now kind of just focusing primarily on gigs and Simon Drake, or something else that you're doing now?
So I now have 2 nights a week regular residency at a shisha bar.
Okay.
As we all know, as a working magician, it's great to have a residency. You're not scratching for work. You've got at least 2 guaranteed nights. So Fridays and Saturdays, I work at Shisha Garden in Edgware, and it's one of the most Instagrammed shisha bars in London, and really nice venue. And I'm very lucky to have a couple of nights there. So I do that every Friday and Saturday if I haven't got another booking or I haven't got another gig on one of those nights.
Okay.
And then during the week, I'm creating, I'm making, I'm crafting, I CAD. So I am a 3D printer. I am not physically a 3D printer. I do 3D printing. And so therefore I had to teach myself how to do CAD, computer aided design. It's basically like Play-Doh on a screen. And you just build this thing and then you feed it into the 3D printer and it spits out a physical version of whatever it is you've fed in there. So I found that my creative side, even though I was already working in wood, my grandfather was a woodworker. He was a cabinet maker on one side, and actually a factory worker who made things on the other side. So both my grandfathers were makers, and so I was always pottering in the shed and doing stuff with them, and it just became a natural progression to create magic. And nowadays, obviously, we're all about 3D printing, and you can create it on a computer and have the thing in your hand within an hour, technically.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So obviously you were creating things when you were on the market stall, but obviously you had limited time to do that because you were very busy and working 7 days a week. So like I said at the beginning of the interview, it feels like in the last 2 or 3 years, you've exploded within the magic community more than you did before. Do you think that's because in the last 3-4 years you've had more time to focus on creating, and therefore you've freed your time up a little bit in terms of what you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis to give you time to actually go through this creative process and develop more routines and ideas?
Yes, absolutely. I didn't have the physical or mental time to even stop and think about, oh, how about if I could do this? How would I backwards engineer and get this effect by creating this thing? Or how do I get to point C if I don't know what A and B is? I just didn't have time, exactly. And I've been able to just put a lot more time into the things that I actually care about rather than just working to live. And that's what I was doing for 20 years. As I had a decent enough upbringing. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't poor. Didn't really, I wasn't lacking for anything when I was a kid. But I worked since I had a free papers, back when free papers were a thing. I used to deliver free papers when I was, 8 or 9. So I was used to working from very early on. And then I was, doing hard work at Hamleys, etc. And it just meant that I was constantly working to pay the rent and never really, as you say, had that time for my brain to be able to process and take in other avenues and creativity ideas. And then once I had less of that going on, I was able to open these creative doors more and be able to spend a day and a half working on something rather than just 20 minutes and then having to go off and go to work or whatever. And sometimes these things on I'll print 15 bad prints before I get the thing I want on a 3D printer right, you know. It's not an exact science. You're working in tolerances of millimeters. And if you get 1 millimeter out, the whole print will, you know, but you don't know until you finish that 8-hour printing or whatever. So yeah, it gave me the time to be able to have more scope to create. And then I realized, of course, that the things that I brought out ages ago, ring swing, 10, 12 years old, Bluetooth, 10, 12 years old, that no one in this current magic community had either seen them, knew about them, or was using them. And I'm like, these are great magic. These are sound, as you've said yourself, these are, you know, working pieces that get good reactions. And I thought it was time for a general release. I happened to befriend the good lad that is Sven at Premium Magic Store.
I was going to ask that because obviously the first batch of releases that you brought out were with Premium Magic Store. If people don't know who Premium Magic is, I interviewed Sven recently, and people will probably know him for his Sven and Bosch incredible Force and Bosch, sorry, incredible close-up pads.
Yeah, exactly.
How did that come to be? That sort of
we just started chatting at Blackpool. I hadn't been since I was very small and got taken with a family member, and I decided it was time, because I'm now a bit more involved in the magic community, that I should probably start, you know, visiting this thing that everyone was talking about every year called Blackpool. By that stage, I'd already made friends with people in the industry, such as Dean Williamson. We'll talk about the agency and him afterwards. Harry Harrington, which I know you spoke to recently, is now, you know, one of my absolute go-to guys, best mate. He's my brain trust. Anything I have an idea on, it goes to Harry before it goes to anyone. And we sit there and we talk about it, and he tells me why I'm wrong, and I tell him why he's wrong, that he thinks I'm wrong. And we go back and forth until we come to some kind of mutual understanding of why this trick will or won't work. And then I'll come back to him again and send him a prototype and be like, play with that, let me know. So it was through meeting all these people at the, you know, Facebook groups and things like that, Magicians Online, that I then opened up a dialogue with Sven, and he sat me down at Blackpool 3 years ago. I think it was the year before the pandemic. We're allowed to say the P word.
Oh yeah.
So it was that Blackpool before you know, PC, pre-COVID. And he really loved what I was doing with, I think I blew away his group of Gauchelaar, as they call themselves, which if you see it written down, it says Goochelaars, but that's how they say magician in the Netherlands, a Gauchelaar. And so I really impressed his table of Dutch magicians, and he was like, oh, who's this guy? Maybe I should do some kind of collaboration. We opened a dialogue, and we decided that the 4 worth releasing in that initial run were Bluetooth, which you've yet to get to, Phoenix, which we need to talk about, and Die, which Rylan loved. You keep calling it Roll, but it's actually called Die.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I've seen you chat about it a couple of times. That one with the paper dice, and Diamond Thief, which I also think you haven't seen yet, but you and Rylan will really like when you get to it.
It's in our review pile, that one.
Yeah, I was going to say Diamond Thief and Bluetooth and possibly Ambivalence. They're in the review pile, so everyone will get to see them sooner or later, I'm sure. And so they were all released with Premium. What we did was Sven decided the best way to do it was to fly me out. Mm-hmm. So we went out and stayed with him for a week, and we did what is, I think, probably unheard of in the magic industry. If you don't mind me asking you one question, how long does it take to make a trailer normally for you if you're putting out a trailer for a product?
Are you talking about just filming it or the physical?
Yeah, filming it and then getting it ready to release, essentially, edit, filming.
Well, I don't really edit the trailers, but I'm going to Penguin next week, and I'm filming 9 products in 6 days.
Wow. So, yeah. I mean, but that's crazy, right? So we did more of the same. We had 1 week. So we did 4 full product trailers and tutorials and demos and everything that went with it in the space of just 1 week. We did, I think on average, we were up till 5 a.m. each day. Wow. I was sitting filming thing 1. Let's say we did Bluetooth first. So I sat and filmed Bluetooth. As soon as that was done, Sven was over in the corner editing Bluetooth, and I'm there in front of the camera filming Phoenix. And then as soon as Phoenix was done, etc., etc. So by the end of the week, somehow, with absolutely no sleep, we'd managed to produce 4 trailers, 4 full tutorials, and sent it all off to Murphy's. And
Wow.
because Sven had already been dealing with Murphy's with the Vorston Bosch pads, it was very easy for him to get them interested, get the foot in the door, as it were. He'd never released any products himself, and he saw the potential in mine and realized they would be 4 really good, strong bits of magic to put out under the premium name.
And did that happen after the pandemic? Because you said you spoke to Sven for the first time before the pandemic. Did that?
Yeah, that was actually, yeah, after COVID. So just towards the end of COVID. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the exact dates, but yeah, it was that period when we were just all coming out of the madness the first time. Yeah, we managed to just find a week somewhere where I managed to get out there, and I think it was between first and second lockdowns. And so by the time we, had finished it all, it was ready to go to Murphy's. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to spend 1 to 2 weeks on a single trailer. Never thought we'd be doing 4 in 4 days.
Yeah, that's insane. But hey, you managed to get them done, which is great.
It was a long sleepless week, but it was worth it because we got these 4 great products out, really fun trailers, slightly generic in that they were all shot at the shop, but we had no choice because everything was going on COVID wise. We couldn't go out to bars too much or anything like that. So we made do with what we had. And I'm very pleased with how they came out. We sold out of Bluetooth twice. I think a couple of 100 units first time, and then again a couple of 100 units the second time, and they're still regularly selling. Phoenix, about the same, sold out first run, nearly sold out the second run immediately. And then the other 2 have just been dribs and drabs, here and there, like you saw die yourself. A couple of them didn't get quite as much publicity or promotion as I would like, but that's something that now I'm also dealing with Murphy's myself directly. We may re-push some of those ones that perhaps didn't get as good a push as they could have.
And why do you think that's the case? I mean, I typically find releasing 4 by the same artist at the same time is never really a great thing to do.
Because we basically were trying to push out 4 at once, and the attention was on Bluetooth and Phoenix because the visuals on them is absolutely stunning and immediate, whereas Diamond Thief has a little bit more of a paced effect going on, and the same with Die. It's got a little bit more of a pace to it that's not as rapid as here's your card flying out at you, or here's your card, shred it, and now it's in flames and now it's fixed again. So the focus was on the 2 bigger impact ones, and rightly so. They sold really well, and, no complaints whatsoever in terms of how they marketed any of it. But just because those 2 did so well, the other 2 didn't really get a look in.
That's great. And then off the back of that, you start before we talk about the next batch of releases, am I right in saying that you went back to the markets for a little bit in 2021?
I was doing bits and bobs.
Because I was doing my research, because I do research this stuff, and I saw a post on Facebook, something about you doing the Jubilee market for a while. I don't know.
Yes, so I actually went because Magic Cave was there, but no longer me and Neil, and they were doing their own thing there. And I myself only sell my own products, as I mentioned. I don't buy stuff from China, so I'm not there doing thumb lights, and I'm not there doing so. I approached the Jubilee market in Covent Garden, where I knew they'd had other magicians previously, and I said, can I have a stall there? And I did it again for another 1.5 years while I was just in between things, and while there was a bit of quiet time, and during the pandemic when there wasn't much of any other kind of booking work. And I went and worked on the COVID wards as well. I worked for the NHS. I was happy to do any work when there was no other work, so I got given shift work working on the COVID wards, which was pretty intense. For every hour you were going onto the wards, half an hour of it was taking on and putting off PPE. And obviously, for the amount of people that went in, there were a lot less coming out, and it was pretty harrowing. But I felt like I could at least do my bit to help. And I didn't do it for free. I'm not going to lie, I got paid for it. It was just agency work. But the hospitals were in need, and I certainly wasn't gigging anywhere because there were no gigs.
Yeah, that's very admirable.
Well, I
So
mean, the work was there and they needed help. So if I'm not doing anything else, I couldn't just sit on my butt all day. I'm quite an active person, as I'm sure you can tell.
yeah.
So yeah, I just felt, and it was local as well. So it took me half an hour to get there. And I was doing, again, because I'm nocturnal, I was doing the night shift. So I was starting at 9 p.m. and finishing at 9 in the morning, doing a 12-hour overnight. And you just literally, there were 4 main wards, and I'd go into one ward, empty out all the trash, clean up, whatever, just basically domestic help, and then as soon as you finish that ward, you go to the next one. By the time you've got to number 4, number 1 needs doing again. And so it was just literally 12 hours at night, just going around these 4 wards, just emptying and getting rid of rubbish and clearing out PPE and making sure there was enough there for the next shift of nurses, so they didn't have to scrabble around for PPE stock and things like that.
Wow, cool. And then coming out the pandemic, obviously the 4 products that you released with Premium Magic Store are released, and then at Blackpool you've got a bunch of new releases.
Well, I mean, just slightly cycle back from that, I then did 2 years with Sven on the stall with him. So I did 1 year pre-release where he just liked my stuff anyway and said, oh, do you want to sell your tricks on my stall? And they weren't through Premium. It was just me selling ring swing and Bluetooth and just doing them on the stall. And that's what became Sven saying, do you know what? These tricks are awesome. I've spent all weekend watching you. I've seen the reactions. Let's release these through Premium. And so the following year, I was then officially performing for Premium Magic with my joint releases with Sven.
Wow.
Then this year, because Sven and I, the relationship is in no way strained or anything like that, but we've done our 4. He's busy doing stuff with the shop, and he's very focused on the Dutch market because that's where he is. And so I don't know if you get his emails or you see his updates, but it's not in English because he's not focused on the English market, even though it's quite a big market. He's focused on his own location, which is absolutely fine. And, that's how he wants to do his business. And, good luck to him. He's doing great by it. There are only 2 shops in the whole of the Netherlands. So he's, got a kind of captive audience as well himself. And he's having amazing lecturers there now. And the place, I don't know if you've been yourself.
No, but I've seen.
Stunning. Absolutely. It's one of the most beautiful magic shops I've ever been. It's not dark and dingy. It's not, it's just a beautiful place to be around. And it's somewhere that clearly shows the love of magic. And now Sven's, just released a new line with a French company of kids type illusions and things like that, and various other products. And so he's, just working with other people. Our work had run its course with those 4 effects, and I just said to him, I'm going to release a few new bits and pieces, but I think I'll do them on my own now that I'm a little bit known, having done 2 years with you on your stall. And he was like, oh, I think that's a great idea. And so there's no bad blood there whatsoever. It was just time to go our separate ways, as it were.
Perfect.
And that brings us to this year.
And then at this year, you had a stall for yourself, and
this was my first solo venture. I was very worried because I
was about to say that's a risk, right? I mean, for you when you work, people might not know this, but when you work with a company, they're taking on all the financial risk a lot of the time in terms of creating the product, getting it ready. All of the financial risk is on the company, and when you bring it out yourself, it suddenly becomes you. So there's a lot of money up front that needs to be spent because you're having to have enough of these made to be able to cover the people that want to buy it, whether that be directly through you, whether that be at Blackpool, whether that be a Murphy's order. You've got to cover all that, but then you've got to cover the cost of doing tutorials and trailers and marketing, advertising and assets and a bunch of different stuff. So there's a lot of expense. What made you decide? I know you said that Sven was pushed in a different direction, and that's fine, but you're a creative guy. If you wanted to, and you picked up the phone and you went, hey, Sean, would Penguin be interested in this? Let me send you a video. They'd probably have said yes. If you picked up the phone and said, hey, Andy, Josh, would Vanishing Ink? They'd probably say yes. Murphy's would have said yes. Probably Peter Nardi, Alex, anybody would have said yes to you. But you decided to go on your own and do it yourself. Scary situation. What was the reason? And
it's interesting. I'm not going to mention any names, but certain names in the industry I've been I've had not run-ins, that would be the wrong. I've had dealings with where I've attempted to get a foot in the door, and I've either just had, I suppose, what's the nice way? I've had money thrown at me. We don't want you, but we want your product. So here's just a chunk of money, and then we own your product. And I didn't want that. So that negated a number of the UK magic suppliers. And then with regards to the US, I saw what they were doing, and I couldn't rationalize the cut that I would be losing in terms of the volumes that they would be prepared to take on. A lot of people don't realize, because you mentioned just then about having stuff produced, etc. Nobody produces anything for me. They never have. I've made every single magic trick I've ever sold. There is no factories. There are no mass production. Every single Bluetooth unit, every single ring swing is made, cut, polished, sliced, darned, whatever, by me by hand. And I'm one of the few creators that still does that. There are a couple of us out there. I believe Nicholas Lawrence, when he initially put something out, he does it. Hondo with his flap cards, he's the one making the flaps. And there are a couple of other creators, but even those guys that produce their initial gimmick, after that, they outsource it to someone. I've never outsourced anything, for the same reason that I said about not buying in stuff from China. I didn't want the quality of the stuff going out without me controlling how good that quality was. So at no point did I ever want random people making my Bluetooth gimmicks, making them substandard, and then people thinking that it's a substandard thing. And so I decided to keep creative control, and the best way to do that is to literally produce it all myself by hand. So that's part of what I do during the week when I'm not working. I'm making stock, I'm creating, I'm doing custom orders. Just got one from another young YouTuber who wants Bluetooth made with his personal custom deck, because they're his cards, but I can incorporate my gimmick things into his cards. So, I do jobs like that where I'm doing custom work for people. Yeah, so
wow.
that's it. So a lot of people don't realize. And I produce the trailers, I produce the videos, I produce the tutorials. So all the literature that goes with it, whether that's video or written, it's all produced by me. There is no third party. There is no other person. The only time that happened was with Sven at Premium. And the only thing then Sven was responsible for was the editing of the videos at the time. Even then, when we did our deal with Murphy's and we were sending them 200 units of Bluetooth, I was making every single one of those units by hand. Sven wasn't involved in the making side. He was in the promotional side. Okay. And I don't think there's many others out there that do that, to be honest. But it means I can maintain creative control, quality control. And if there's ever an issue with any of my products, I always say to people when they buy my magic, all my magic comes with a lifetime guarantee, because I've made it. So if you stop using your gimmick and then you go back to it and it doesn't work, no problem. Post it back to me. I'll post you out another one for free. As long as you show me you've, got that thing that you bought originally, I'll replace it if it stops working, because it shouldn't. If you bought my trick, I want you to carry on doing that trick for the next 20, 30, 50 years.
Perfect. So now we've caught kind of bang up to date. So now your kind of working week revolves around anything that you do as and when with Simon Drake, the performing residencies, private parties, whatever it is that you're getting booked for. Yeah. And then the rest of the time is creation and creation and
stock making. Yeah. And I didn't quite address your previous question, actually. I just realized you said, what about the costs involved with, now going Blackpool on my own. So I just wanted to address that. So yeah, it was a huge investment for me, having had the help of Sven behind the scenes in terms of financially. Even though I was still making stuff, we were splitting costs between us, and it made things a lot easier to get these products out. Once I realized I was doing it on my own, it meant the minimum single table cost for Blackpool. A lot of people don't realize, especially this year, I've seen a lot of people complaining about how the increase in the ticket price has gone up. But I don't think people quite realize that the dealers are already paying probably 2 or 3 times that price already per table. So, just a single simple table is more than 300. So anyone who's complaining about going and say, oh, and that doesn't include a gala ticket. So if we want to go, we just literally get a table. We then have to spend another 50 quid a night to get tickets to go and see the show. So if I just want to have a single table and see the show each night, we're already at nearly 500 quid. And I've not even bought any stock or invested in anything. And then, of course, I had to put in, 1,500 for stock to make sure I had enough stock for the weekend, plus roller banners and this, that, and the other. So yeah, my investment this year was huge. And I was very worried because when I saw where they put me, I wasn't even in the main dealer hall.
But you look busy.
Very, very worried when I saw they were putting me in the horseshoe. Turns out totally unfounded, because a lot of us newcomers and other people, we were all in the horseshoe. We had a bit more room to dem, and as you said, when you come up to my store, I had a massive crowd. That's basically what I used to do every Saturday in the market anyway. So I just I go into market mode, but it's a captive audience, like I said, because they're all magicians. They want the good magic. If you show them the good magic, they're literally give me that, and I had people all weekend going, oh, I've heard about your ring swing thing, do you want to see it? No, just give me one, there's the money. So word of mouth, especially at Blackpool. I have to thank, is it Jeff Taylor Imagineering? He did Monkey. No, Jeff Price. He did Monkey, but he also did the Penrose pendant the year before. And that made me realise, with the complete sellout he had of the Penrose pendant, that maybe I should do a wearable version of the ring swing thing. So it's thanks to him that this version of the ring swing thing came out. I'd only ever had the large ring, the bigger style one, and it was more a parlour piece. It certainly wasn't a wearable, because who'd wear a ring that big? You look like a medallion man from the 70s. So I have to, really say thanks to Jeff on that front for making me realise, oh yeah, actually this could be an EDC, it could be a wearable, could be a really, and I sourced these really nice black anodized rings and the same, ball chain that I was using, and made this really cool new version of the ring swing with a slightly movie influenced trailer. I'm a big movie fan. You can see I've got like Back to the Future on here. The ring swing trailer was influenced by The Ring. So in fact, most of my trailers have a little hidden movie Easter egg in them. So it's up to people to have a look at my trailers and try and find all the little movie Easter eggs. They're for me, but if you want to join in as well, you're more than welcome to try and find them all.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So now that you're in a situation, it seems like you're in a great place. You're performing, you're working with who you said was your hero, and you're creating, you're having time to create. Good place, right? Really good place.
Yeah, absolutely. I just released my first two of my solo with Murphy's. A ring swing, which has came out, I think last week officially, was released via Murphy's. And I think we've virtually sold out of the first batch already.
That's great.
They've just taken on your worker of the week from last week, Polka Dot.
There you go.
That will be coming out next month. So once you have your foot in the door with one of these creating teams like Murphy's, it does make it easier to have them show interest in other products. And I've got loads more. I'm looking at 6 or 8 different things that have never seen the light of day. One that I know Rylan will absolutely love because it involves cubes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unlike any cube thing you've ever seen. So that's to come soon. I have a color match routine which I performed for we the agency, and I say we, what I mean is my amazing friend Dean Williamson during lockdown.
Yeah.
Set up an agency of magician only agency. So there are many agencies out there that have magicians and actors and film people and radio and and all these varied things. There aren't many, if any. I think there's about 1 or 2 that are 100% dedicated just a magician's agency. And you yourself know, doing what you're doing, that the focus is normally on the general arts rather than specifically magic. So during lockdown, Dean realized there was a niche for this. That's Dean Williamson. And he set up the Factory of Magic, and he took on 7 performers, and that's it. And that's all there's ever going to be on the book, is these core magicians, each with their own specialism. So, myself, Catherine Rhodes, Rick Green, Lewis Hill, Ashley Green. We've got 2 Greens for some reason, but unrelated. and Harry Harrington, of course, Kevin Cunliffe, who's a freak entertainer. So Kevin does freak show, Harry and me are close-up guys. Rick Green is a stage performer. He's quite often at House of Secrets. You've probably seen him there. He's a Blackpool end of the world guy, so you know he lives down that way. So you'll see him performing at Russ's House of Secrets quite often. And so we all have our own specialist fields, and so we focus on corporate. So most of the bookings have been for, we did a charity event for Ambitious about autism and helped raise £400,000 for the autism charity, which was amazing. And during lockdown, we were doing beer magic nights. So we worked with Tiny Rebel Brewery. Tiny Rebel would send out 6 beers. We would have a beer specialist, and they would come on, they would talk about a beer, pour that beer, drink that beer, and while you're drinking that first beer, one of us would come on, do a bit of Zoom magic, and then back to the second beer. And so we were doing, you know, paid events like that just to keep our hand in while everything was shut and down and dead during those, you know, COVID time. And then obviously, you know, now that the agency and work is getting back to normal, they're going from strength to strength. Dean is working with a number of different schools to do inter-school programs, which help kids with after-school magic programs, where we're spending a week with the kids in the school every evening, and by the end of the week they put on a show, and working with, you know, certain areas that perhaps wouldn't have had as much access to the arts. That's the whole point behind it, is, you know, the slightly less well-off areas who perhaps don't have as much arts funding and things of that nature. We want to try and get, you know, school programs going so that they have access to these kinds of avenues that they perhaps wouldn't have normally had. And we've had funding. We've had funding from the Welsh School Board for things like that. So Dean's going from strength to strength. He also has his own, you know, day job, family, etc., and the agency thing is a sideline. So his focus, of course, is on, you know, his family, but as much as he can, he also focuses on the agency and gets us work and is promoting and doing these inter-school programs and things like that. And I can see it, you know, just going from strength to strength now that things are back to normal and lots more work's coming in, and we're doing charity gigs, as I say, and things like that. I just see it going from strength to strength. So, you know, I'm really, really pleased and proud to be a part of this agency that is, you know, dedicated to furthering the magic arts.
That's great.
And as of talking of furthering the magic arts, as of 3-4 weeks ago, I'm now officially a member of the Magic Circle. Hey. So I went whenever I felt like, purely because my uncle Lionel was the curator of the museum there for many, many years. He was a very well-respected, well-known magician and dentist, and he basically helped set up the modern museum as it is today. So if you go to the Magic Circle, you're lucky enough to visit the building, and you go down to the museum downstairs, that was essentially curated by my uncle Lionel. And so anytime I felt like I wanted to visit or surround myself with magicians, I went and visited Lionel. He sadly passed away a couple of years ago at the age of 91. So, you know, great life he had. And yeah, basically I realized that, you know, once Lionel was no longer with us, I thought it was about time I actually joined myself, so that I still could have continued access to not only the building, but also the incredible people that go there on a regular basis, such as, you know, various people, right? Too numerous to name. And so I put in for my apprenticeship last Blackpool, because, you know, why not? Anyone who's at Blackpool, if you're going to go, wait until the year after, because Magic Circle normally waive some kind of fee and you'll get your entrance fee a little bit cheaper. So why not if you can? So at that year's Blackpool, I signed up. And within the year, I did my exam and passed my exam, and I'm now a full member of the circle. I think a lot of people assumed I just was because they'd always see me there, but that was why I was always there, because I had the familial link. But yeah, so I'm really, really proud to call myself a member now. And you know, it is what it is. It has the name and the prestige that it does.
That's brilliant. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, you're just flying. That's great. That's really, really good. Do you I suppose, how do I put this? Now that your income, or a percentage of your income, revolves around creating new magic, Do you ever worry that, oh my God, what happens if I run out of ideas? I know you've just said, hey, you've got 8 things in the pipeline, which is absolutely amazing. But do you ever like worry, oh my God, Sirus Magic, the core product of Sirus Magic is tricks for magicians. Oh my God, I hope I don't like, or is that not an issue? Do you find it very easy to create magic? That's a question I get an awful lot on this channel. So it's
Okay.
something I ask a lot.
Well, I mean, I term my magic, my first lecture notes, I'm going to be lecturing very soon now that I've got the circle standing. I think it's only, right to have that before you start trying to promote yourself to other magic societies. So now I have that. I hope that I'm going to be able to start lecturing soon. And my lecture notes will actually, the pre-heading for them is organic magic creations. And what this simply means is most of my inventions, creations, and tricks and things that I come up with just happen to happen while I'm doing other things. So, for example, Phoenix, I was performing Alexander Dakova's slap restoration effect for many, many, many years. And then someone just made some innocuous comment about, oh, every trick's better with fire. And I was like, oh yeah, actually that's quite prophetic. How could I add fire to? And then I developed a way to add fire into Phoenix. And as you well know, when done well, it looks amazing. When done badly, it's quite painful, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I'm very particular about, like, if it is something like a dangerous, seemingly dangerous trick, I'm very, very careful and cautious about how you perform it and how you should and shouldn't perform it. And I think, yeah, you had some issue with it because you overused the fuel and maybe waited a bit long for the flame. And so I'm not surprised you did get a little burnt when you performed it. But I think you should definitely maybe give it another revisit.
I mean, this is an interview. This is about you. I don't want to talk about, if you want to debate about reviews at some point on the channel,
no, not at
more
all.
than happy to. I don't want this to be. I don't want this to turn into an argument back and forth. Because
no, of course.
When I give a review, I'm going to stand by that review. I'm not going to say, I don't want to get into a debate about tricks. And this is for me. This is the interview about you and all about you. And I'm a big fan of a lot of your magic. Happy to have a debate about the merits or that. Therefore, about that. That's a totally different thing. I don't want to get into this on this particular interview.
No problem whatsoever. Yeah, that's fine.
Also, and I always stand by my reviews, but it is only my opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right. And I've spoken to a lot of people that really like Phoenix, which is fantastic. I've got tricks that I've created. Some people love them, some people hate them. It's just it's the dice that you've got to roll when you're a creator. You can't please one thing I've learned is it's impossible to please everybody. All you can do is you can create a trick and truly believe in yourself that that's the best that it can be. And as long as you believe that, then you can hold your head up high regardless of what anybody thinks, because yourself that you've got it to where you're happy with it. And as I say, I've seen you do live performances of it. I know it works.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do it 30 times a day at Blackpool and don't burn myself. You know what I mean? So it's just about, I'm just very, my point simply was, if I give a warning and I say that something should be done a certain way, it really should, because I've worked it and I've worked out what works and what doesn't. And that's the other reason that I want to do all of my own tutorials and don't want to farm them out to someone else to just do their own random thing, because I'm the one who's out there working these effects every day. So
would you, if you've talked and you said earlier in the interview about particular production companies, and you didn't feel like that they wanted your tricks, so on and so forth. Now you've got Sirus Magic, you've got this relationship with Murphy's, you're bringing tricks out, you're putting them into Murphy's, absolutely brilliant. If a company like a Vanishing Ink or a Penguin Magic or a Murphy's Magic contacted you and said, hey, you got your stuff going on with Sirus Magic, that's great, but we'd like you to, we've seen you do this, we would like this as a Penguin product, or we would like this as a Vanishing Ink product. Would you say yes, or is it something where it's like, hey, now all of my focus is going into Sirus Magic?
I wouldn't say no, but I don't know that I'd definitely say yes, given what I've already said. I would always, consider anyone's suggestions, offers, because I think you'd be silly not to, like, closing doors before you've even seen what's on the other side of the door is the path to just ruin, basically. If you're not getting, if you've got a foot in the door and someone's contacting you, the least you can do is have a listen, because you never know what they could bring to the table.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And there are a lot of creators out there that are doing that. Like, you look at somebody like David Jonathan, for example. He'll bring a trick out through his own website, then he'll work with Penguin, then he'll work with this company, then he'll work with that company, then he'll have something out. The industry has changed very much these days, hasn't it? To a point where, back in the day, people like Illusionist, they had their artists that were exclusive to Illusionist. And that if somebody like Wayne Houchin wanted to release a new trick, it was going to be through Illusionist. But these days, I'll see somebody like Carl Purnell popping up on Vanishing Ink, and then the next day he'll be popping up on Penguin. And
yeah. I mean, some of them are prolific creators, and therefore exactly they'll do their stuff as widespread as they can in order to just get the stuff out there, I guess. Which I totally get that.
Because
thankfully,
it does help raise your profile. I mean, your profile is pretty big anyway because of having your stuff go out through Murphy's and the stuff you brought out. But obviously, working with a Penguin Magic or a Vanishing Ink, it really kind of opens the doors to another group of people that might not be aware of your work. That
yeah. Well, I mean, thankfully, working with Murphy's, as soon as you release something with Murphy's, you've technically released it with Vanishing Ink and everyone, because they all stock Murphy's products.
Yeah, so what's really weird, Cyrus? Like, I did a masterclass with Vanishing Ink, and the amount of people who messaged me, hundreds of people, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of people messaged me saying, I'd never seen Craig Petty's work before, but having seen this masterclass, I'm definitely going to check him out. And this is after I'd bought out the Mirage coin set, the Quantum deck, Shop and Penguin, Keymaster through Penguin. I'd been very prolific through various different companies. You can see with the reviews on my masterclass on Vanishing Ink, so many people going, never heard of Craig Petty before, no one heard. And I think that a lot of different companies, they have their own kind of list of people that because
I mean, the same could be said of you.
Yeah,
like you have your hardcore group of intense followers who are vehemently defend you to the hilt and won't hear a bad word said against you, and then on the flip side you've got all the haters that have always had issue with you from day one, haven't they? So
that's it. And the thing is,
it is a case of you can put yourself out there, but you'll obviously you can't please everyone. But I think having these other avenues is certainly helpful. And like I say, I wouldn't not consider, if someone approached, I'd be always willing to listen, because you never know what that could lead to. Like this random lady on the jewelry stall that led to me spending the last 5 years working with Simon Drake.
Absolutely, you never know where things are going to go, right? And that's the thing. Let me ask you one more question. So you like I say, you're in a great place. You've brought out some incredible products, very well reviewed, very well received. You're performing regularly. You've got you're part of this agency, which is amazing. You've got your own residencies.
And I do film and TV work as well.
I mean, look at that. I mean, you're just all over the place. You're everywhere. Is there anything? What are your goals and plans and aspirations moving forward? Is there anything left on your bucket list that you'd like to achieve? Your magical bucket list. So what's ow, excuse me, just kicked myself in the leg. What's your goal, Cyrus, over the next, say, 5 years? Where would you like to see and Sirus Magic going?
I want to, like, as I mentioned, I want to obviously start doing the lecture circuit. I've got lots of side knowledge that I think is worth sharing. Just something as simple as how to easily split cards, or make a box that's requires no glue, but you can make a box out of cards. Little craft things like this, as well as the magic creations and things of that nature. So I'd like to be able to just keep moving forward with bringing out more lectures, bringing out more material. I've always maintained I don't want to be famous. People say to me, "Oh, you're great. You should go on Britain's Got Talent." Every party I do, every event I do, they say, "You're great. You should go on the talent shows." And I say to them, I've got talent. I don't need to go on a show to tell me I've got talent. So what I maintain is I don't want to be famous. I just want to be remembered. And what I mean by that is within the community that I know and I love, I want people when I'm 90 to be like, oh, you're that guy who created that thing 50 years ago that I'm still using to this day. I want to be the I don't know, the tells bells in 20 years time. I want people to be referring back going, oh, I'm desperate for a copy of Bluetooth. Has anyone still got one in 20 years, you know? So like, I want to be remembered as a creator who's brought good magic into the community, and much like I did with Julius, I want to be remembered for helping people move forward with their magic and create stuff for themselves using the tools I give them, whether that's a physical ring and a chain, or whether it's some kind of knowledge or how to approach an advertising company to get, you know, to make sure you get the gig, or, you know, all these different bits of knowledge and things that I've garnered over the last 25 plus years of doing this. It would be a shame to not share those with others. I mean, what is the point of knowledge if you can't share it? It's, you know, if it's great, you can keep it to yourself, and then you die, and then that knowledge dies with you. So, you know, like I say, I don't want to be famous. I just like to be remembered within this community that we have, and respected as well, obviously, not just remembered, because, you know, there's plenty of people in our industry that we all remember and none of us like. And I don't need to mention any names. I'm sure you can think of some straight away, given recent issues you've had with certain people. So, you know, it is a case of, yeah, you have to just play to the audience that we've got. And right now, the magic industry is kind of, you know, opening up again in terms of the work that we're doing, and how we're being received and perceived by the general public, thanks to shows like Britain's Got Talent, stuff like that. The amazing Killian absolutely smashed it. I think he's got like more views on that video than any other Britain's Got Talent clip or something. And that's amazing. Yeah. Incredible. And he's such a lovely young lad as well. And to see these young people coming up in the industry, Magic Maisie and Killian, and of course Izzy, and all of these amazing kids that you see in the Spanish bar at Blackpool at the end of the weekend, and they're, you know, sharing magic and magic off at each other. It's incredible and inspiring to see these guys. So yeah, it's great that, you know, I can be in a position, hopefully, where I can mentor others like I mentored Julius, and you know, just help people get on in the industry, whether it's within the creative side or releasing effects. I just, you know, sometimes it is very hard to get your foot in the door, or not know how to perhaps start creating or things like that. And, you know, I'm always available if anyone wants to reach out for mentoring and things like that. And I'm not saying I'm, you know, expecting money. Like I say, I want to share my knowledge with people. And so lecturing, I think, is the first key to doing that. And now I am a circle member. I feel like, you know, approaching magic clubs as a circle member holds a bit more clout, I guess, to be able to show, look, I'm this good, so therefore I'm capable of imparting knowledge and information on you guys, you know.
That's great.
And then just, I'd like to just keep putting my stuff out. Like I say, I've got this new Rubik's one, I've got this paint by numbers thing. I digressed with slightly Dean and the agency, but we basically did a special performance for Manchester Art Gallery, and we created some unique pieces. It's out there. There's a video out there. If you have a look at the Factory Magic website, you can see the full video there. And I created a brand new color match effect with a new way of having colors chosen, and a brand new way of doing the reveal at the end. Normally with a color match, it's just, oh, and here's the picture of the Lego man, or I'm wearing the matching colors. They're kind of the two out for color match these days. And I've found a way of sort of incorporating the actual an actual piece of physical art within the routine, and that should be coming out at some point this year as well. Paint by numbers with a twist, it's called.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to see it, because you've got a great track record. You really have.
Thanks.
And I know anything that you bring out is going to be awesome. And you are more than welcome to jump on here anytime you want to promote something. You know, if you've got want to do an interview about a new product, I'm more than happy to chat with you anytime.
Marvelous. Thank you.
I want to ask you one more question before we wrap it up. One question that I ask a lot of people. You, especially people like you, and what I mean by that is you're one of very few people that have a career as a performer and also a career as a creator. A lot of the time, if you're a creator, that's pretty much what you do. If you're a performer, that's what you do. There is a crossover. People like Gary Jones. This is, there's a small crossover, but generally, it's one or the other. You do
I
both.
have to because I have to get my stuff out there and see if it works.
Exactly. I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. So here's a question. And I know it's going to be a very hard question to answer, and it's going to be almost impossible. And if somebody asked me this question, I'd struggle. What do you prefer? So, for example, if you had, because I, again, did a bit of research on you, I read an interview that he did a few years ago from Expose. Great interview, by the way. And they asked you a question,
Thanks.
what's for you? And you said, I'd very much like to get myself and a lot of my magic to Vegas. And you talked about how Vegas is amazing, lots of shows, lots of opportunities as a performer. So let's just say, hypothetically, you get a phone call going, hey, I'd like to give you a chance to headline your own Las Vegas show, for example, but you're not going to have any time to create. Cyrus Magic is going to have to cease to exist. Or Sirus Magic wants to be taken on as the in reverse. So Sirus Magic gets a contract to, supply all the magic to Vanishing Ink or something. But as a result, you're going to be inundated with work and creation and building, and you're not going to have time to perform. Which one do you go for? What's
Wow.
I said
I can't not create mentally, but I can't not perform physically. so I would have to choose performing, and I would just be creating for myself, I guess. The reason I started creating and became more of a prolific creator was simply because those magicians who were visiting me on the stall each week were constantly saying, well, I bought that and I bought that, so what's new? So every third week or fourth week, I'm like, right, need to come up with something new. So I've got this book and I'd write down, as we all should. Best advice for anyone who wants to be creator: get a book, get a pen and paper. Any silly little idea you have. I've got 15 books full of silly little ideas. Some of them have become what they are today, Bluetooth, this, that, and the other. Some of them will probably sit there until the day I die and never become the thing that they could be. But yeah, it's so I couldn't ever switch off my creative brain because I'm quite high functioning. I think, as performers and magicians, I would say a large number of us are somewhere on the spectrum in terms of how we approach things, and how we generally are, and how hyper we need to be. And I think that's a good thing, especially in these diverse times. I think it's a good thing to be able to, embrace your differences and use them as part of your skill set. And so for me, I couldn't ever switch off the bit of my brain that sees a thing and goes, oh, well, you could do that with that, or that with that. Last week I created, and this is what I was going back to my lecture notes, organic creations. I hear a thing and my brain will go into 9 different tangents in order to bounce and see. It's almost like a pinball machine in my head. And so 2 weeks ago, someone put a post up on Magicians Only, something along the lines of, what do you do when you get a table alpha, as I call them? You know what I mean by a table alpha?
Mm-hmm.
So, you're doing your own thing, but they feel like they have to try and somehow outperform you.
Yeah.
Because you're at their table and it's an affront to them. And obviously that's all nonsense. We're all in this thing together, but they sort of have this, I can only describe them as table alphas. And we've all come across them now and again. And I work at this shisha bar where various alphas come across, because there is alcohol involved. And, it's not them just necessarily being nasty, but just they're a bit full of themselves because they've had a few drinks. So the Magicians Only group made me realize there is nothing for that. There is no, what essentially would be a yellow card. Yeah. So I've literally created that. I've created a referee system for magicians. So it involves a yellow card and a red card. And there are jokes and magic built in to the yellow card, which you issue first times. For example, something as innocuous as someone going, "Oh, you're a magician, make my wife disappear." That's a foul. I'm sorry, that's a foul. So the yellow card comes out, and on it, it says, "Things I've heard before, make my wife disappear." So you're already, you're making a joke of them trying to make a joke of what you're doing, and it diffuses the situation. And then once that card's out, I built in a couple of magic moments in there, so you can be like, "Okay, I've given you the yellow card, but now let's try something with it." And we do a couple of magic moments. And the red card itself, and I don't mind telling people because it's something I'm going to bring out independently. The red card is actually a wallet with your business cards in it. So at the end, rather than getting a red card booking, you hand them a business card and get a booking.
Cool. That's brilliant.
So that's going to be out soon as well, called Foul Play. And and it comes in a stripy envelope, so even the thing that holds it looks like a referee. So and it's literally because of this Magicians Only group. Someone asking, "What do you do about a heckler?" My brain was thinking about it for 2 weeks, and I went, "Oh yeah, you could yellow and red card them, couldn't you?" And then it just went from there. And so it is just this organic thing that happens in my head. Unfortunately, it does also mean I can't watch magic without breaking it down. I don't know if that's the same for you. I literally can't watch anyone's performance without in my head going, "Oh, okay, well, I would have done that, or this would have happened, or maybe they should have used that, or blah blah blah." And I can't just. I wish I could, but I can't just sit and enjoy magic anymore because I've created for so long. I have to my brain goes into backwards engineering mode immediately, whether I want to or not. But this is how my lecture name came about, Organic Magic Creations. It's literally just things organically come to be. And so I don't think I could ever stop creating, but if it was given the choice, I would have to continue performing. I'm quite a showy person. When I'm up, I'm really up, and I'm very showy. When I'm not, I'm just in my own little bubble with my hood on, and don't bother me. I'm in my own little world. But even then, my brain's still creating stuff. But I don't think I could ever stop performing because, like I say, I've been performing since I was in my grandparents' hotel when I was 5. So that's all I've ever done, is put on a show of some form or another.
Well, you know what, Cyrus? I want to say thank you for coming on the channel. I really do.
It's a pleasure, mate. Like I say, long time. I've been waiting ages to have this time with you, and I really appreciate the time. I know how hard you work as well, so I really appreciate you finding the time to fit me in.
You're okay. And you know what? This has been a great interview. Genuinely, it really has. And I'm a fan. I said that to you at Blackpool, just came up, got everything. I'm a fan, and I will continue to be a fan. And if people want to reach out to you and buy your stuff directly, where's the best? Is there a website? Is there an email?
They can just message me on any of the social medias, directly through Instagram.
So what's your social media? What's the best way to find
absolutely fine. I don't currently have a website, although there is one currently being made. But until then, direct contact is absolutely fine with me. That's how most people do get in contact with me. Not a problem at all.
Okay, fantastic. And obviously, some of your tricks and some of your
and that's everything at Sirus Magic. So Instagram is Sirus Magic and Facebook is Sirus Magic. So yeah, it's all under that same.
And if people want to reach out to you about doing lectures, now you've started doing lectures, that would be the same, Sirus Magic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. You know what? Thank you. Genuinely, thank you for coming on the channel. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for what you do, mate. Like I said, I see how hard you work with everything you do, everything you're doing with Ryland. And, it's just going to go from strength to strength. He will outshine you very, very soon. I'm sure you're aware of that.
He is, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, I appreciate how much you do as well. And it doesn't go unnoticed by those that matter. So thanks to you as well.
Thank you. And you know what? We'll do another one of these in the future when another product comes out. And maybe at some point we'll even do a chat online about products and reviews and stuff like that. But for now, I want to say thank you very much. I want everyone who's watching this interview right now to leave a comment down below. Let Cyrus know what you thought. I think this is amazing. This is a gentleman that's had an incredible trajectory, and right now, as far as I'm concerned, he's at the top of his game. He's got best-selling tricks come out. They're all coming out through Murphy's. He's flying. So leave a comment down below, reach out to him, connect up with him on Facebook, and yeah, one more time, Cyrus, thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. Really appreciate it. It's been great to talk to you. Like I say, long time coming, so I'm really glad to be here with you. Thanks again.
Thanks so much. You the man. And Ryland will be literally on the edge of his seat for anything Rubik's Cube related. So he's going to be excited about that one.
Excellent. Good, good. I'm looking forward to seeing your face like that.
Absolutely. Guys, leave a comment down below. On behalf of Cyrus, thank you very much for checking out the latest Talk Magic interview on Magic TV. And I will be back again soon with another video. Thank you for watching. I'm Craig. That's Cyrus. We are, or I am, Magic TV.